So yeah, here we go. Welcome everybody. This is how to pitch your project. It's part of HackSecret. HackSecret's virtual hackathon that's running over the next 5 weeks. My name is Skrillah in this world, and I'm one of the co-founders of the secret agency DAO. So we cover a lot of different bases for the network. My area is mostly business development and kind of connecting teams to the network to come and build with secret contracts, or connecting VCs and investors to different projects that are building when they need funding. So I deal a lot with pitch decks and that kind of thing. Hence why I'm running this class today. I have a background in product development and e-commerce, so mostly food products and healthy foods and gym equipment and that kind of thing. I've brought over 300 products to market under different brands and with varying degrees of success in real life and online. I got into this world because I was trying to automate some of the more boring bits of supply chain management and bringing products through the route to market. I was trying to automate them with smart contracts, those processes. But quite early on, I discovered that I don't want all of my supply chain to be public by default. I don't want all of my competitors to have all of that information available and be able to get the jump on me to release something before me. So I needed a private smart contract, and that's what led me to Secret Network. I also really, really enjoy educating people, and I kind of learn by teaching other people. So I do a lot of workshops in real life in Barcelona as part of the Say Something Association, which is an events venue and art gallery here. And I teach workshops in Web3, NFTs, and I've also just started an AI skills training class for people that are looking to increase the productivity of their own businesses. You can find our website there if you want to learn more about that. It's called say.barcelona. So all nonprofit. The Secret Agency DAO is a nonprofit. The Say Something is a nonprofit association, and so is the AI Academy that we just started as well. Okay, so let's get into it then. So what is a pitch deck? A pitch deck is usually a slideshow. It can also be a video if you prefer. But really, it's a short and informative overview of your project. I would say that you would keep it no longer than 15 minutes and keep that as your very strict rule. Because often if you're pitching to like an investor or you want to sponsor or that kind of thing, you usually get a half an hour slot to speak to them, because they actually usually just have a very busy schedule, and they usually have an automatic calendar. So after all your introductions, you've got about 15 or 20 minutes to deliver a kick-ass pitch, and then usually you would follow up with some kind of like deal at the end or next steps. So half of your half an hour is to pitch your product. It covers the products and services that you provide, covers your go-to-market plan, any financial projections, what you need in terms of funding. We'll get into all these points in a bit more detail in a second. But really the overall goal is to build FOMO, which is the fear of missing out. And also it's important to not rely on a pitch deck to get funding right away. Usually if you are looking for funding, trying to get it from a professional investor, there's about a 90-day turnaround because of the legal documentation. So there's a lot of due diligence that goes into to receiving money as an organization. And the other side, the fund has to do a lot of due diligence on you as well. KYC regulations, disclaimers, all this kind of stuff that protects you and protects them from any legal recourse has to be done. Takes about 90 days. Okay. So yeah, let's consider it's a slideshow. The first slide is usually always the value proposition. Okay. So you have a short and sweet tagline. Let's say we're doing a private decentralized Uber. We would just have that, and also a kick-ass logo and color scheme. So it's important to think about the brand identity of your product. I'll actually show you a couple of first slides as well in a second. But this is one I knocked up for the AI Academy. You can see the color scheme is all the same for every single piece of merch that we might do in the future, and the font and all of that stuff is uniform, and also the logo. It kind of fits into all these applications, so that's why we chose it. Okay, so you can actually get an AI tool to make all that stuff for you. I use logoai.com to do all of that stuff. And yeah, it turned out really good. I would say keep it consistent across the slideshow. The last thing you want to see is like different brand identities and different slides. I'm going to come off this and I'll show you a couple of slides from what we use to pitch different projects to investors as well. So this is like our overview deck when we go to pitch Secret Network to investors. We'll give them like a brief overview of the network, and then there's several examples here of different DApps that are building in the ecosystem. So here's Fina. Their brand identity, you can see very visually, it's very clear and straightforward. It's blue, it's white. There's only two colors, which works brilliantly. It's very easy to understand. Here's an example from Serenity Shield. It's a bit more graphically complex. There's like a graphic design piece here. They've got the logo. They've got several different colors and fonts going on. But what you'll see throughout the rest of the slides is that those are kind of uniform. Those font styles and all that kind of stuff is uniform. Okay. VIRL is very including a lot of images on their first slide. And then actually this is quite a cool one as well. Secret Admirers. It's kind of like a video game style. Okay. If anyone has any questions or wants to jump in at any point, please feel free. This should be more like a conversation than a lecture. Okay. So yeah, the slide 2 is the problem. So often you're building your project to address a problem within the Web3 space. You briefly describe the problem that your project is addressing, but don't spend too much time here, because at the end of the day, you're trying to build up FOMO and you don't want to spend too much time with like negative points. Okay. Later on in the pitch set, you can have like a competitor analysis infographic in your go-to-market section. I'll show you what that is later on. You're basically analyzing all of your pros versus your competitors' cons. But this is an example from one of our projects called the Shield, and the problem that they're addressing is all of this hacks from smart contract exploits. They're building like a firewall to protect smart contract interactions. So yeah, one slide just describe the problem, I would say, is enough. The third slide should be your target market, so you can use it to describe how big your target market is. Use any info from your competitors' user adoption and usage. So if you're building a private decentralized finance application, you can take user metrics from maybe some of your competitors on public by default chains. And then you can include that in your pitch to show how big the target market is. Okay. You should be honest here. You shouldn't say you're going to take out the entire Bitcoin market cap. But if you can say you're building something that's going to be a competitor to Uniswap, or another major player, then that could be key in building the FOMO. Okay. Slide 4. Now we get into the value proposition. So the solution. We built up some FOMO. Okay, already in the last slide, talking about the target market. Now it's time to explain what your project is going to do. I would say that and I've seen a lot of these pitch decks before, it's really good to use graphics to explain the complex solutions. As developers or as builders, it's easy to go really, really deep into the weeds with our solution and our perfect plan to solve all the problems we've identified. But if you've only got 15 minutes, then it's a lot better to just hit them with a quick slide. So I've taken this one from Fina. Fina is a mobile wallet application that's built on Secret Network. You can top up a virtual card within the application, and then they partnered with MasterCard, I think, or might be Visa. But you can go and spend that in any shop. So you can top up with Secret or Secret, and then you can just go and spend it in like Starbucks and all the supermarkets and stuff in the EU. So they took probably what could have been 10 slides of explaining the whole solution, and they condensed it into one super easy graphic with like one font, and that works a lot better. Usually any professional investment fund will have technical advisors. So it might be like a developer, or sometimes it's like a computer science student that can review the documentation and white papers and all the technical information. In the pitch deck, you're just looking to keep it quick and short and build up the FOMO. Okay. The next slide, you should move into your revenue model. So how are you going to make money? How will the money you make generate a return for investors? And again, I would try and use graphics here again, if it's possible. So you might have like a flowchart diagram of how your token is going to generate returns for any early investors or stakers back into their pockets. Okay, so this is an example from Secret Admirers where they've got 4 different methods of generating revenue. Slide 6, how are you going to acquire users? Often the biggest problem in the space is that we've got all these brilliant products, but acquiring the users to come and actually use them is very, very difficult. So I've included an example here from Serenity Shield, another product that's built on Secret Network, but actually also building in Solana and Binance ecosystems as well. And they are, for the next testnet, they're doing incentivized testnet, where anyone that comes and gives them feedback on the UI, UX, or the features of the D app that they've built is going to get a chance to win a part of that $10,000. Okay, so incentivized testnets, airdrops as well is another way you could do it. Ambassador schemes as well is a way, like a lot of people use Crew Free or other platforms to reward their early community members with NFTs and tokens and that kind of thing. And just going to plug our good friend's project Bonus Block, which is actually flipping that ambassador model on its head and actually rewarding people for on-chain transactions. So they're about to launch, and they can track whether you've actually done a swap on a DeFi application, whether you connected your wallet, and then you can get a share of an airdrop that way. So there's an old saying, show me the incentive and I'll show you the reward. And I think that really applies to user acquisition. Like, you have to incentivize people to come and use your D app. Okay, next slide. Very important to include your project's roadmap. So include any key milestones and progress so far. So let's say you've just done a testnet and it was a massive success. You got loads of good feedback and you gave away $10,000. That would be something to include in your roadmap as, like, we've already got past this major milestone. Any other major milestones in the future, like another testnet run or launch of ambassador program or website revamp or regulatory approval in Europe, for example. Those are all big milestones that you should include as well. So make it very clear, if the investors looking at this roadmap, this is where the money that they invest is going to go. Okay, to help to develop the product. Next is a marketing plan. So I think it's a good idea to spend some time on discussing where you are appearing on podcasts, any features in the press that you've got. So let's say you got like a feature on Yahoo News or something like that. It would be really good to feature that in the pitch deck, because it really helps to build up a buzz when you're speaking to a fund. And also, if you've got any upcoming collaborations with any other businesses, if you're partnering with another D app, if you're going cross-chain or anything like that, it's always a good idea to include that. And any kind of insider knowledge, any alpha, is always welcome, I think, in these conversations. If you can drop a bombshell that nobody else knows about inside a pitch call. Okay. Next, it's a good idea to include a slide about your team. It's often teams overlook this step, but it's really useful to build up a level of trust. Like, if I'm investing a lot of money into a project, I want to know exactly who's building it and what their credentials are. So this is one we actually use for our overview of Secret Network, and the team you see in front of you is from Secret Labs. Okay, so that's our core protocol development team. Right at the top left for me, you've got Guy Ziskind. Okay, so he's his paper on cryptocurrency and NPCs is the 6th most cited paper in cryptocurrency research ever. He is the CEO and founder of Secret Labs. He's an ex-researcher at MIT, and he's very respected in the space. And then we've got Shahar, the head of marketing over at Secret Labs. And then we move on to the 2 main technical staff. So Itzik, VP of Engineering, and Asaf, the lead software engineer. These guys are both ex cybersecurity experts from the Israeli Defense Force. So right away, you've hit them with a few big names and a lot of credentials there in that team sheet. And some teams like to remain anon, but I think it's as part of the like fund acceptance process now, you have to do KYC anyway. So I think it's kind of like futile to be pitching and asking for money off somebody, but also trying to remain anon at the same time, because you want to build up that level of trust with the person you're speaking to. Okay, the 10th slide is, I would say, very important, is a revenue projection. So let's say you get to 10,000 users of your product. How much revenue in fees or in subscriptions, whatever model you're using to generate revenue, would that bring back? Okay. When you get to 100,000 users, how much would that bring back? And then you can also include how much would that return to the investors as well. If you have been through an MVP or a testnet, or you've even launched a mainnet and you have actual data, then I would include that as a line on a chart like this. If you only have projected data, then include that. But you could start with actual data and then you could add a projection as well. And one thing you could do as well is add a best and worst case range. So let's say you have like a sort of range going up that shows how much if you had your worst case of users, which is 10,000 for month 3 of your project. But if you had 20,000, which is your best case projection, then you would have this much revenue coming back. And you can also include lines going down with each adoption milestone as well. So, okay. Slide 11. We talked about this earlier with the in the problem slide. And this is where I would include like a competitor analysis infographic. So I've included an example here from a DApp, but if I was bringing in a new protein bar to the market, I would take the top 3 most similar protein bars and I would analyze them against my protein bar that I'm bringing to market. And mine would have more protein, less sugar, less fat, and it would also look really nice as well. So I'd include something like that. Here's an example of an infographic from one of our products. It's a smart contract firewall that's on chain. It can add protection rules, which you can see one of its competitors can, and one of them can't. It's privacy preserving, which none of its competitors are. It's gasless, again, none are. And also it can integrate with Web 2 applications as well, which the other two can't, okay? And then they've included a little sentence at the top that kind of nails all of the key points there. And then slide 12, this is probably the most important one. And often a lot of pitch decks miss it out. What is the ask? What does the project need to get to the next milestone? I mean, this is like a one that's from one of our projects. I would include all the information here at the very least. So what round it's on, what percentage of the total token, if you're doing tokens it is, or equity. Okay, the price of purchase, the target for the funding round, and then the valuation. This is, so how much is this going to be worth when it's fully diluted? Okay, as per the revenue projection. And then these guys are currently on this round of funding, which is a public sale. Okay, so there's some information about that. I would include the successes of any previous funding rounds that you've done, if it's applicable, if you have had any, because it shows that there's already interest in the product, and people have already dunked in, and probably the fund that you're talking to should get their foot in the door as well. And also include the full details of the current round and the valuation as well. Okay, so yeah, 12 slides. Hopefully it's been 15 minutes for you to do all of that, and or 20. And now you can start to talk about the deal and where you're going to go next. Are you going to do like a marketing announcement? Are you going to connect the technical teams? The golden rules, I would say, is to keep it short and sweet. You probably only get 30 minutes max. Again, practice until you can deliver your pitch perfectly. There's nothing worse than someone that's like umming and ahhing about their own product. It doesn't show very much confidence. Don't be disheartened by rejections and people not calling you back. In this bear market that we're in, and whatever it is, a recession, it's really hard to raise funds. You just have to keep hammer it. often funds will start with like a marketing partnership, or you might go onto their Twitter space or their podcast, or you might do an event with their university community. And remember that the money doesn't come in immediately. It usually takes at least 90 days to get all the due diligence done. Okay. And yeah, well, that was my pitch about pitching. How much time did it take? 29 minutes. So I'm a little bit over. So I'll probably need to practice a little bit more. But if you want to keep in touch with me, you can reach me at Skrillah at secret.agency, at Secret Skrillah on Telegram, at Secret Skrillah on Discord, at Secret Skrillah on Twitter, and /Skrillah on LinkedIn.